Howdy, y'all. It's Reese, aka Bearman Prime, on this September 12th. Welcome back to my Read the Bible in a Year series. Thank you again for joining me. God bless you all. Card in the top right hand corner for the rest of the playlist. And please hit that like button, subscribe button, and notification bell. Sure to appreciate it. All right, so we are in the end game now of Jesus' earthly ministry. We are approaching the moment when he will die for the sins of the world. We saw yesterday how the teachers of the law and the leaders, the religious leaders, are really starting to make plans to try to arrest and kill Jesus. And then we see Judas, one of the 12 apostles, agree to help these guys give Jesus to them in exchange for blood money. And now we're going to move into the time when the 12 and Jesus will observe the Passover meal. So let's go over to John today, John chapter 13, and start in verse 1. It was almost time for the Jewish Passover festival. Jesus knew that the time had come for him to leave this world and go back to the Father. Jesus had always loved the people in the world who were his. Now was the time he showed them his love the most. Jesus and his followers were at the evening meal. The devil had already persuaded Judas Iscariot to hand Jesus over to his enemies. Judas was the son of Simon. The Father had given Jesus power over everything. Jesus knew this. He also knew that he had come from God, and he knew that he was going back to God. So while they were eating, Jesus stood up and took off his robe. He got a towel and wrapped it around his waist. Then he poured water into a bowl and began to wash the followers' feet. He dried their feet with the towel that was wrapped around his waist. He came to Simon Peter, but Peter said to him, "Lord, you should not wash my feet." Jesus answered, "You don't know what I am doing now, but later you will understand." Peter said, "No, you will never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "If I don't wash your feet, you are not one of my people." Simon Peter said, "Oh Lord, after you wash my feet, wash my hands and my head too." Jesus said, "After a person has a bath, his whole body is clean. He needs only to wash his feet, and you are clean, but not all of you." Jesus knew who would hand him over to his enemies. That is why he said, "Not all of you are clean." When Jesus finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and went back to the table. He asked, "Do you understand what I did for you? You call me teacher, and you call me Lord. And this is right, because that is what I am. I am your Lord and teacher. But I washed your feet. So you also should wash each other's feet. I did this as an example for you. So you should serve each other just as I served you. Believe me, servants are not greater than their master. Those who are sent to do something are not greater than the one who sent them. If you know these things, great blessings will be yours if you do them. I am not talking about all of you. I know the people I have chosen. But what the scriptures say must happen. The man who shared my food has turned against me. I am telling you this now before it happens. Then when it happens, you will believe that I am. I assure you, whoever accepts the person I send also accepts me. And whoever accepts me also accepts the one who sent me. Okay, so strange situation, probably, at face value, but it's a really, really important picture of the kind of person that Jesus is and the kind of person that Jesus wants us to be. So here we have Jesus and the 12. They're upstairs, they're having the Passover meal, and then all of a sudden, Jesus gets up, he disrobes, puts a towel on, and he starts washing the feet of his apostles. Now, you have to remember that in this time, people walked everywhere, to get to places, right? And, they didn't have proper shoes like we do now. They basically wore sandals if they had any, or if they didn't, they were, barefoot, right? Okay. So they're walking around in sandals and bare feet and, in the streets where it's, it's dirt roads. But you know who else walks the streets? All the animals. Okay, their livestock and their work animals, and you can imagine that's probably really filthy. So they're tracking mud, and grime, and muck, and doo doo, and all that stuff on their feet. So even if they take a bath, when they go from place to place, their feet are filthy. So it was traditional whenever you go to visit someone that when you walked into their house, they would wash your feet. Okay, sign of service. So what Jesus is doing here is that as a sign of service. Okay. Now, at first, Peter is reluctant to have Jesus wash his feet, and he's not doing this because it's not like, oh, don't touch my feet. Nobody touches my feet. He's not doing that. He's being almost incredulous, like he can't believe that Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of the living God, is washing his feet. That he is bringing himself so low to wash his feet. And Jesus basically says, if you don't let me do this, then you're not part of my people. So then, of course, Peter overreacts, like, oh, yes, wash my feet, my hands, my head, wash all of me, Lord. Just kind of, overreacts. But after this, Jesus says, you call me Lord and you call me teacher. And that is exactly who I am. I am your Lord and your teacher. In spite of that, though, he did what a servant does and washed the feet of his disciples. He washed the feet of others, right? So, this is the kind of person that Jesus set out to be. So, remember, he is God. He's God the Son. He's part of the Trinity. He's holy. He's divine. He is the Lord of everything, okay? But he humbled himself and came to earth in the form of a man, a physical man. Now, because of his lineage and because of his divine power, he has every right to demand honor and glory for himself because he is the Lord of all, Lord of creation, God of Israel, God of us all, right? He has that prerogative. He could do that, but he chooses not to. He chooses instead to be like a servant, okay? Though he's reiterated this over and over again. Those that humble themselves will be made great, but those who think of themselves great will be humbled, right? So Jesus is trying to paint this picture to his disciples that if you want to be my follower, that you must do what I do. You must wash the feet of each other, or more broadly, you must be willing to serve each other in such a way. You must, lower yourselves and humble yourselves to be a servant to each other. Because even though he's a king by right, he chooses to be a servant. Okay, so that's the most important thing that you need to get out of this passage here is that you ought to be humbling yourselves, serving others as an act of love. Okay. And then, of course, we see him alluding to his betrayal, his upcoming betrayal. He tells them that, there is one among you who is going to betray me. This is written in the scriptures, but these things must happen so that you will believe that I am, I am that I am. And then he ends it with, I assure you, the one who accepts the person I send also accepts me, and whoever accepts me also accepts the one who sent me. So if we accept Jesus, we accept God. If we accept the one who Jesus sends, then we accept Jesus. So you see the chain there, right? All right, that's all for today. We'll pick it up there tomorrow. Thank you again for joining me. I sure do appreciate it. I'll see y'all tomorrow.